Welcome to Little Orphan Anime, everybody. Today I've got 4 short anime that you can watch in 10 minutes or less. We're going to go from longest to shortest, starting with the heartwarming Traveling Daru, then Tokio of the Moon Shadow, a slick show with an interesting twist, and then the excellent Shelter, and finally the bizarre but mesmerizing Puparia. Links to stream all of them will be down in the description. Let's check it out. So Traveling Daru is about a little girl who makes herself a Daruma doll that she absolutely loves. A Daruma is a very round Japanese doll that is supposed to bring good luck. If you've been interested in Japanese culture or anime for any length of time, you've probably seen these around. They're everywhere, kind of like those lucky cats. Anyway, the girl loses the doll while on vacation and is forcibly hauled off to an airplane, separating herself and Daru by many thousands of miles. But magically, Daru comes to life and spends the next several years traveling the world trying to reunite with the little girl. What's cool is that he's apparently brought to life by one of the little girl's tears that falls from the plane as she passes overhead. But don't think about this too hard. In order for that tear to get outside the plane, there'd have to be a window open or a hole big enough for that tear to get through. And the differences in air pressure and wind speed would probably rip the cabin of the plane completely apart as the little girl fell horribly to her death. It's a fun show. Daru is resourceful and determined, and he seems to want to reunite with the girl just as much as she misses him over the years. You get to see a lot of iconic world settings as Daru really does travel across an extensive portion of the globe in his search. He may even find a way to conquer the skies. The little girl grows into a young woman, and she's inspired to start a career in fashion design because of the joy that she felt when she first made Daru, but she never forgets him. Daru has his determination reawakened after he befriends a caterpillar and watches it grow into a butterfly. He redoubles his efforts to continue his search, but eventually he grows weary and dies. That's it. That's the end. No, of course not. He doesn't die. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I mean, you can probably guess how it ends. Even if you see that ending coming though, it's still very heartwarming and worth the 10-minute investment. Probably my one criticism of the show would be that this woman is obsessed with this toy. Now, I'll admit, I can be the type of person who gets a little sentimental over objects. I mean, check this out. Like, this Pac-Man toy here was the first major purchase that I made with my own money when I was about 6 years old. And every time that I throw a sock away, I always say, "Thank you for your service," before I toss it in the trash. But even I think that the girl is being a bit dramatic when she can go into a full-blown clinical depression over this toy that she lost years and years ago when she was a little girl. You know what toy I can remember losing as a child? Nothing, because I've forgotten everything about my childhood, except for Pac-Man here, because that was before phones had cameras. When you were a kid, they might take maybe one photo of you your entire life, possibly with a chicken, and then they would wait for you to grow up and get a job so that they could fire you and replace you with a chicken. Anyway, you should watch Traveling Daru. The animation's good. It's very much a feel-good story. It's only 10 minutes long. But let's say you don't have 10 minutes to spare. You only have 7. And let's say that human emotion can't touch you because there's a cold, dead pit where your soul should be. But you still have a brain. You feel like using it. Then you might be interested in our next anime, Tsukikage no Tokio, or Tokio of the Moon Shadow in English. If you've played any of the No More Heroes games, then you've already got a connection to this anime, since it was made by Goichi Suda, who's better known as the game developer Suda51. He made this for the Japan Animator Expo in 2015, which was a weekly series of web animations featuring contributions from several different artists and animation studios. In the world of Tsukikage no Tokio, there are 8 defenders of the solar system who are placed at different stations, such as Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars. Our main hero, Tokio, is stationed at the moon, and he has befriended a blind girl on Earth named Setsuko, who communicates with him through her ham radio. We get to see Tokio's world fleshed out a little more, with some interesting characters that use a mix of 2D and 3D animation. I thought the combined effect was a bit jarring at first, but eventually it made the whole production feel unique and stylish. One of the characters we meet is Takayuki, one of the 8 defenders who's stationed on Jupiter, and is someone who Tokio admires. Takayuki informs Tokio of some distant threat that is rushing towards Earth at incredible speeds and dispatching the defenders along the way with no problem. Tokio rushes off in his giant mecha to head off this threat and to make sure that Takayuki is okay, and to save the Earth, of course. Then what seems like a relatively straightforward sci-fi mecha anime takes some interesting turns as the show ends in what I would call a fairly ambiguous way. I don't want to spoil the ending, but it reminds me a little bit of 2001: A Space Odyssey. where you have a human encountering an otherworldly being out in space, and what might appear like a threat at first turns into something that is quite different, but is still perhaps difficult to fully process. One detail that can be easy to skip at first is that near the end, Setsuko drops her cane, and she appears to get up and feel her surroundings much like a blind person would for a few brief moments with unfocused eyes. But when Tokio shows up outside her window, she seems to be able to see him clearly, and her movements become much more assured, as if she has no problem sensing all of her surroundings visually. It made me wonder if she can see Tokio at this point because he's a complete fabrication that she made up in her mind, or possibly dreamed. But I will admit that I tend to suggest this for a lot of things, and there's a more reasonable explanation on the Suda 51 fan wiki, which I'll link in the description. My favorite part of that wiki is that the external link that's supposed to take you to the anime's main page actually sends you to a site selling tick and heartworm medication for cats. Slightly different. Speaking of slightly different, let's talk about Shelter. If Traveling Daru somehow didn't stir your emotions, then Shelter is guaranteed to give you all the feels. All of them. Shelter is a collaboration between musicians Porter Robinson and Madeon with anime studio A1 Pictures and several other talented people working in the Japanese animation industry. It's a 6-minute music video that they produced for the song Shelter. Out of all the shows in this video, this one has the most polished look. Shelter follows a young girl named Rin, who wakes up each day and creates the world using fantastic technology that resembles a super souped-up version of VR. She has almost godlike powers to create anything she wants, but these powers are balanced by an ever-increasing loneliness that she fights off, as it appears that she is the only person in her digital world. We get a glimpse into some of Rin's memories, and find that her scientist father gave her the capability to create whatever world she wanted. His designs are part of a way to protect his daughter, and to give her at least some possibility of fulfillment in life by using her imagination in an incredibly difficult set of circumstances. This father-daughter story is heartbreaking, but it is also a wonderful expression of love with a bit of a twist at the end. And if you don't feel like someone has been cutting onions after watching it, then we are very different people. Shelter has a fantastic official website as well, which is a great resource if you want to know more about the story and the music, see a little more character art, and learn about the staff behind the show. I'll put a link in the description. The only downside to watching Shelter is that you're gonna want more, and there just isn't anymore. Out of all the shows in this video, Shelter is the one that I would most want to see a full-length feature film of. I'm not sure it would work as a series, but I would camp out in line to watch a movie version of Shelter. If you have 6 minutes of spare time, please go watch this anime. If you don't have 6 minutes of spare time, or even 4 minutes of spare time, you could still watch our last anime, and somehow it would still be worth it. Puparia is only 3 minutes long, but it took 3 years to make. It's a haunting, mesmerizing experience that tries to capture a feeling of strangeness and displacement born out of the digital age. It's also unsettling and hauntingly beautiful. It's the work of just one man, Shingo Tamagawa, who took a 3-year hiatus from his work at Sunrise Animation just so that he could finish this brief anime. Puparia is so short that I'm worried that if I show any of it, I'll be spoiling half of it. Honestly, the best thing you can do right now is just to go watch Puparia on YouTube and come back to finish this video to see if your experience matches mine. If you do want a bit more of a preview, I'll do my best. The anime starts with a schoolgirl sitting by a power line as a strange beast gently waves its tentacles behind her. She does not seem distressed or even curious about this beast. In fact, she seems to be more curious about the viewer. Eventually, she gets up and walks away, and the shot cuts to a man with heterochromia, or multicolored eyes, inside of a red house. He peers through several doorways as a chrysalis-looking figure with large eyes approaches him rapidly. The shot then cuts to a woman in a red blouse who looks apprehensive. I don't want to spoil any more, but we see a few more characters, and then the anime ends as a futuristic-looking girl with wild markings gives us a reassuring smile before heading off to greet her future. During the entire anime, we hear Steve Reich's somewhat repetitive but hypnotic mallet quartet. The title holds a clue as to the anime's meaning. Tamagawa said he named it after the English word puparium, which refers to the outer husk of an insect as it transitions from the larval stage into maturity. In other words, it's the outer covering of the pupa, and that strange beast that rushes towards the man in the red house looks very much like a pupa to me. Puparia is the plural of that form, or more than one puparium. This film shows several different people who are in a transitional stage from their old worldview into whatever will evolve out of this new era of technological change and increasing globalization. It shows their hesitancy and in some cases apprehension as they approach this new and unsettling future. You can tell that some of the characters are more at ease with this transition than others, as some of the characters are completely at peace with the strange beasts in the film. Some of them even project confidence, while others appear fearful and defeated. That word Puparia tells us that the film will show us the outer husks of these different characters, the outer shell that we can see during their transitional state, like watching a caterpillar turn into a butterfly. You may have noticed that I've used a few different pronunciations for Puparia. That's because in English the word is Puparia, but in the making of film, Tamagawa clearly calls it Puparia. But every YouTuber I've heard in English discuss the film calls it Puparia, because that's how you would pronounce it if you saw it as a Romanized Japanese word, which it's not. But I've got a feeling that Puparia is the pronunciation that's going to stick, so that's the one I'll use. Tamagawa said he had a sense that the values that held our world together were falling apart in this rapidly changing modern age, and that we weren't quite sure what was going to come next. Tamagawa wanted to make something that would express this discontent, but also express unity, and that the future might be unknown and unlike anything we've experienced before, but that does not mean it is something that we have to fear. When I say that Puparia is only 3 minutes long, that's true, but it might be a little misleading. For some of you, it might just be a 3-minute experience that you watch and then move on with the rest of your day. But if you're like me, the first thing I had to do after watching Puparia, other than sit there and think about what on earth that was that I just watched, was watch it through a second time, and then a third time, and then I watched the 19-minute video on the making of Puparia by Archipel. This video is excellent, and the quality is professional level documentary stuff. You get to hear the creator of the anime discuss the story behind how he made Puparia, as well as hear him discuss its intended meaning, which is invaluable for making sense of this collage of sights and sounds. I love that we get to see several of the individual drawings that Tamagawa made for the anime at different stages of production, and we see the artist himself flip through these drawings with his own hands in settings that are familiar to him. It really takes the production process out of the abstract realm and makes the show's creation feel like a tangible event that you can reach out and touch. This is the kind of bonus material that I always hope for with Blu-ray and DVD extras instead of those few sterile stick figures that we normally get. I'll link the making of video in the description, although YouTube's probably going to recommend it to you anyway after you watch Puparia, but definitely watch it. I could geek out for an entire video about Puparia, but instead I'll just say, go watch it and let me know what you think of Puparia or any of these shows down in the comments. And if you have any suggestions for other short anime that I should watch, let me know those too. I always love finding hidden gems. So thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.